2 games, no defeats, not even a goal conceded. But what is it about us that is still missing? Find out here on the Crowing Cockerel podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Crowing Cockerel podcast with me, Tom, and with me tonight is Mark.
Hey, how are we doing?
We're doing all right. We don't have Graham with us this evening, but what we can talk about is obviously the 2 games that have come over the last week or so, back in the Champions League against Monaco, and of course over the weekend against Everton. So I guess we start with Monaco, and I don't know about you, Mark, but that was a really hard watch.
Oh my goodness, yes, wasn't it? I mean, just a torturous watch, an unbelievable point at the end of it, really. We couldn't have really complained if it had been 4 or 5-0, let's be honest. It was just non-stop traffic heading towards our goal. And yeah, a really poor performance. And Monaco will come away from that wondering how on earth they didn't win.
Oh, we totally robbed a point. And I think we will definitely talk about this more later on. Vicario saved us in that match, but the things we were going on about in the last pod about that lack of creativity in the middle just seemed to come to fruition again. You know, Bentancur and Paulinho just couldn't seem to find any gaps, couldn't seem to find any passes. One of the stats I saw thrown out was out of the 58 passes that they played, only 7 of them went forward. My frustration with it is that Bentancur and Paulinho are quality players. We've been waxing lyrical about Paulinho already this season. So none of us are expecting them to be creative powerhouses. But I think from the last few games, it's and after that Monaco result, it's starting to feel more like a tactical choice than it is players looking to play the game, looking to play out.
Yeah.
Because if you have that many options to play a pass forward and you don't, then that feels like an instruction.
I think that the biggest concern for me, and probably the one that sets this game apart from all of the other games this season, you know, we've been talking about how Thomas Frank loves the defence to be compact and to keep its shape. And as much as we maybe don't like that, it's been really effective because we haven't conceded many chances. And so you're prepared to put up with that tactic because it's effective and actually we do limit the chances. And in the Aston Villa game, they had to score 2 good goals, even though we were saying that came from conceding the territory to them. But then all of a sudden in Monaco, we were just opened up time and time again. And that was, that was really quite startling to see that all of a sudden, even though we continued to supposedly play compact, those clever little passes in between the spaces that Monaco were able to do, that they had the guy Aliouche, didn't they, who was excellent in the middle of midfield. And had it not been for, well, as I say, some fantastic saves from Vicario, but also some pretty lackluster finishing, I think we can say, from the Monaco centre forwards. Yeah, that was a real concern, how easily we got opened up and how many clear-cut chances they created against us.
Yeah, obviously we didn't have a number of players for that game. That followed into the Everton game as well. I'll say this for Thomas Frank after the match, he didn't use that as an excuse. And he did seem to call out, especially sort of in the second half. He seemed to think we were more on a level playing field in that first half. I didn't see it. But in the second half, we were lucky to come out of that with anything. And he did seem to concede that we were lacking something in that creative final third. But I've got a little theory about this because we've been banging on about that lack of creativity in the middle. I think it has taken Xavi more time to settle than we were hoping. But my main concern now, because I do rate Paulinho and I do rate Bentancur as players, and I don't think it's beyond them to find the occasional pass through the lines. I do wonder if our continual chopping and changing of the front three and actually the quality up front is actually where we're hurting more. You know, when we used to have Sonny, Kane and Decky up front, those players were so good at rotating, so good at dropping back and making that extra man in midfield, so good at making those runs and creating for other players in that front line. Whereas Richie and Colomboiani seem to be sharing that number 9 spot at the minute. Of course, it was Tell a few weeks back. Odebear seemed to have a few flashes in a couple of games, but I don't think he's done anything to set the world on alight, apart from the ball in that got Bentancur the goal against Villa. Kudus has been the main outlet, but I think Graham mentioned in the last pod, if you shut Kudus down, that's it. The creativity's gone. Plus, he's playing a lot of minutes at the minute. So I honestly think that, yes, you want that control and creativity to come from midfield, but actually, if you haven't got those players making the runs, if you haven't got the intelligence in that front line, or even that consistency, so you can build those relationships, so people know when the runs are going to be, so you can ping it down the wing and know there's going to be a presence in the box. I'm starting to feel like that is where we are falling down most. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? It's kind of a chicken and egg situation for me, because I still think when you look at the game and you look at the balls that we play forward, because we're not going through midfield, so it's always the same. There's the midfield too, as you've just said, play very, very few forward passes. Normally it goes into them and then back out to the defence, and then we go wide to the fullbacks, and then it just gets pinged forward. There's so many direct passes, is probably the nice way to call them. Aimless punts is what I would call the majority of them. And with the best will in the world, I mean, Kudus has got the physicality to be able to deal with some of that. Xavi, when he plays in there, hasn't. Odebear hasn't. Richarlison, to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed with him, because I think he does have a bit more of that physicality, but nothing stuck to him either. But to be completely fair to all of them, the quality of the balls that they are receiving is just awful. And we just do not seem to have an ability to play out. We don't seem to have any real clue about what to do when we have the football. Yeah, it's a worry that it seems to be such a struggle when we actually get the ball, and how many times we just give it straight back to the opposition. And obviously against Monaco, they were just right on us and were extremely dangerous as soon as we gave the ball up. They were right back on us and creating chances.
And of course, going to Everton, I think we all felt relatively confident that we could come away where there was something. We'll chat about our predictions in a bit, but I mean, 3-0. I mean, 3-0 at any away ground in the Premier League, that's a great result. I was really pleased, obviously, that we ended up on the winning side and we got the 3 goals. It felt very even. And I've got to say this of Everton. I'm gonna blow my own trumpet here. In the last pod, I said I didn't particularly rate Everton as a defensive force, and I didn't really feel like they were a threat going forward, other than Grealish. And for me, that's sort of how it played out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Grealish was by far their best player, and yes, as you say, it was a fantastic result. 3-0 away to anybody in the Premier League is a fantastic result. But this is why I feel so confused and conflicted about everything about Spurs at the moment, because you look at this week and we've got a point away in the Champions League. We've got a resounding victory away in the Premier League, not conceded a goal. We're third in the league. We've got the joint most goals scored. We've got the second fewest goals conceded. So everything should be rosy. And yet the sad truth is that I hate watching us. I really hate watching the games. And it makes me think, well, what right do I have to not enjoy what's going on? But it's impossible to enjoy those games actually watching them. It's almost like I would get more enjoyment out of not watching it and just tuning in and seeing what the result was. And it goes down to that whole debate, I guess, of what is more important. Is it the result, or is it actually being able to enjoy those 90 minutes whilst you're watching the game? And for me, I think there has to be an element of enjoyment. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, like, you're not wrong. I do wonder how much pressure has been put on Thomas Frank coming into this role after, let's be absolutely honest, an abysmal league showing last year, essentially the worst Premier League performance from a Premier League club that hasn't got relegated.
Yeah.
And Spurs knew what they were getting in Thomas Frank with regards to knowing that he was pragmatic and coming in with a more defensive mindset. I think we have seen him try and be tactically different. We've seen him look to utilise players differently. I mean, he tried Kudus in the 10 against Everton, which took me a bit by surprise given how lethal he's been out on the wing. Or maybe he was just trying to slow him down and give him a bit of a rest.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that worked, despite the result, because like you say, it is a very underwhelming watch at the minute, and I think I felt more that the reason we won that game was because we were solid at the back and our set pieces were good. And that seems to be the blueprint at the minute for football in general, at least in the Premier League. If you can do the basics right and be the most physical, the most organised, and take your chances at set pieces, then you are more likely to come out on top. But that's not the football. Surely we all want to be watching.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you're dead right. In the Premier League as a whole, Arsenal, as much as it pains me to say it, are the gold standard for set pieces. They are absolutely lethal, and they sit top of the league. Two teams that are the worst at conceding set pieces are West Ham and Nottingham Forest,
There you go.
and they're in the relegation zone. So yeah, it's effective football. It's the way certainly football seems to be going this season, and to look on the more positive side of it, it's better that we are doing that well, as it seems to be more and more important. But yeah, it's a tough watch. What I hate most is that it seems we've become almost like an anti-football team. And what I mean by that is that our priority seems to be to slow the game down and to spoil it and to disrupt any sort of rhythm that the opposition has, and all of those ugly things that you hate to say that you hate to see in football. It's what we do, and like I was just saying, in possession of the ball, we don't seem to have a clue right now. I honestly cannot remember the last time we transitioned the ball through midfield and played 4 or 5 progressive passes up the pitch. It just doesn't happen.
And that is why, in the end, it didn't surprise me that when we did get the goals, it came from 2 corners.
Do you think that, because Thomas Frank often talks about layers, doesn't he? He's adding layers to the team as he goes on, and we spoke about in the last couple of episodes how he's quite rightly started and prioritised on the defence and being compact and getting all that sorted out, and then also on set pieces, he said as well. Of course, that it's an important part, so he has focused that, and so those are the layers that he's put on the team at the moment, and it seems like he hasn't really figured out what to do with that front four yet. And of course, we've got players to come back that will help with that as well. I mean, Solanke being up front, I think is a big miss, just in being able to hold that ball and allow us to get out. And then obviously Kulusevski as well
Yeah, I
is a
think
big miss.
I'm starting to feel more and more like it's Kulusevski, because I remember a couple of times last season where Maddison was injured and Kulusevski would drop into the 10 and did a really good job. And it's that adaptability, that football nous, that knowing that actually if the game's not going a certain way, then you need to find a pocket of space or you need to try a different type of ball. It's that guile we're missing.
But I do think he brings something different in that number 10 position, but he also brings physicality. And that's the one thing we miss up front. I mean, we've already alluded to it. With Xavi, he just gets knocked off the ball so easily.
It's still a concern of mine that it only seems to be if we haven't got an outlet on the wing, and 9 times out of 10 kudos, then our options for creating stuff from open play seems massively diminished.
Yeah.
And then we sort of go back to that general feeling this year that is the way football is in the 25-26 season. And I suppose we can at least be pleased that if that's the case, we're doing it okay. Especially if you look at the table, sitting there in third.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as much as we are complaining, you can't complain about how effective those tactics have been and the results that we've gained. But I really do hope they do evolve, because if the whole season looks like this, it's going to be a long, long season. And we talked last time about sustainability of those performances and those tactics. We've got a hard November coming up. And by the end of that month, I think we will truly be able to see just where we are. Because if we're able to continue getting these results at the same points per game tally against top teams, we've got to play Chelsea, we go to Arsenal, Manchester United look like they've turned a little corner. We've got PSG, of course, as well this next month. So, of course, Newcastle is our next game away in the Carabao Cup. So lots of tough games, big tests. And yeah, I think by the end of that month, we'll be in a better position to see just where we are in terms of how effective those tactics are.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned before how Thomas Frank's been saying he wants to build up these layers. You know how much I love watching the after game press conferences, and in one of them, he mentioned the clean sheet mentality twice
Yeah.
within about the space of about 3 minutes. And look, it is difficult to argue against when you see where we are, and in an odd way, it should set us up better against these big teams.
Yeah.
At least we can say that we have a little more confidence that we're just not going to get turned over because
Well, we
we
saw it
seem
against
so.
City, didn't we? Very,
Yeah,
very early on in the season, we saw it against City how effective those tactics were.
yeah, and look, I hope you're right about the layers, because clean sheet mentality is great, but it's something to build on. It can't be the tactic. I think we all say we want more, and that's maybe where we need a bit of reality check, because more than third place, more than 17 points after 9 games. As you say, great goal difference, great goal scored. What more do we want?
No, no, and that's completely fair. You can't criticize him, and yet I'll come back to my very first point. I will criticize him because the whole point for me of supporting this team is to watch the games and enjoy watching them. That's the whole point. And some people may not agree with that. Some people may say, well, no, the whole point is getting 3 points. The whole point is, if you're serious about wanting to win a league, is getting those points and getting as high up the league as possible. But my argument is, would you take, and let's just go right out there, would you take winning the league and playing like that Everton game every single game, being horrible to watch, being defensively solid, and nicking games on set pieces every single game of the season that results in us getting silverware at the end of the season?
Okay, that's tough, because you're talking about winning the league,
Yeah.
and I've got to say that yes,
Is it worth it?
I think it probably is, and I know that a lot of Liverpool fans were um, weren't blown away with the style of play Slot was playing last year, and let's face it, they hardly really got pushed. They sort of walked it, but it's
Mm.
not like everybody around us was going, "Oh, aren't Liverpool playing fantastic football?" And at the minute, we're not saying that Arsenal are playing great football either, but
No,
they
they're
are,
playing horrible football.
but they're an absolute juggernaut at the minute.
Yeah.
So would I want us to be where Arsenal now and go on to win the league playing that way? I would love to see us win the league in my lifetime. Absolutely, I would take it. You use the Everton game as an example. I mean, winning 3-0 most games, yeah, absolutely, I'd bite your hand off. The last time I remember us playing quite underwhelmingly and getting a really good result was the Europa League final. And would I take the Europa League final? Absolutely, every day of the week.
And I agree, by the way. Of course, if you give me the chance of Spurs winning the league, of course I'm going to take it. But it just seems like the whole point of watching football is not just so that you can spend 9 months being completely miserable and finding it a complete chore to watch the game just to say, oh yeah, we won the league. Because ultimately, okay, so what? If you haven't enjoyed the process, what's the point?
You're like a poet, and you know what? And that is what being a Spurs fan is supposed to be about. People talk about certain clubs demanding their teams to play a certain way, and I'm really proud of the fact that I'm a supporter of a club that has that in its DNA. But after years and years of not winning very much, I think I can take this bitter pill right now and move on. Let's check back at the end of November and see sort of where we are, and see if the players coming back and the layers that Thomas Frank is talking about manifest into something which we can genuinely get excited about.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think what you said is key. As long as this is a foundation to us building and becoming a more rounded and multi-dimensional team, then I'll take the short-term pain of having to watch these games in the hope that it's going to blossom into something better.
You gotta have hope.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with Graham away, there is no Tom's teaser this week, but do not fear, he'll be back next week. And what some are calling the internet's greatest quiz show will also be back next episode.
Shall we have a chat about some of the other positives that we can grasp onto at the minute? And I think maybe even a little sort of official apology from the Crowing Cockerel podcast to a certain goalkeeper, because there was an episode a few weeks back where I think we all had a little bit of a dig of Vicario at some of his distribution. We were saying he had the propensity to do a bit of flapping, but if you look at Monaco and you look at the Everton game, I mean, genuinely, I think he's the reason we came out of those games with the points and results we did.
Yep, 100%. He had two fantastic games. I am not ready to apologise to him quite yet. Because and the reason I say that, and listen, I'm being horrible, but the reason I say that is because shot stopping is always what he's been brilliant at.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a question that is a strength of his, and it is a fantastic strength to have because ultimately it's one of the most important things that you need as a goalkeeper is when shots come towards you, or even when they're not coming towards you, you're able to stop them from going in the back of the net. And he has always been top class at that. And as you say, I think the things where for me, the reason why I've thrown a little bit of mud his way is to do with his command of his area and just his decision making and the fact that I always get a little bit nervous when he's got the ball, and I still get nervous when he's got the ball. But no, every right to laud him and praise him for these performances in the last two games, because yeah, for sure he has been the difference maker, and without him we certainly wouldn't have come anywhere near to getting a point against Monaco, and it would at the very least have been a lot more twitchy against Everton.
Yeah, I mean, I've got two little niggles, but one very, very positive thing to say, and that is on the niggles front. Number one, if your goalkeeper is making loads of saves, that's never a good thing.
No.
So and especially in that Monaco game, I don't think you could say that there was anything in the Everton game that overly worried us, but in the Monaco game, the performance was so bad that we needed him.
Yeah.
Which is is actually a positive. But in the Everton game, it was the quality of the saves. I think that you can be a shot stopper, but the reaction saves that he made were absolutely top draw. The other little niggle is that although I think he did it really well, and some keepers do this, I've always preferred keeper to come, catch, and if possible, take out 2 or 3 players in their landing. That is my preference, rather than punching it out. But he even seemed to be doing that better against Everton. So that, and when you're doing that, that command of the box is sort of an area where you want to see him improving, and I think he is. The main thing is it's that consistency at the back, and especially if you take into consideration as well, we've lost Kuti for the last couple of games, so that is going to unsettle that back line. Big shout out to Danso, by the way. I think
Yes.
he has done really well. I think he is a more than capable backup, and given the amount of time we had last year where Gray was having to fill a spot and Davis was having to fill a spot, how good is it that he's come in and provided that and the long throws, but mainly the defensive duties, which have been really good. Also doesn't look a slouch. He's got a nip of pace on him as well, so that's great. All of that together, that back line, and we know they drill it, of course, under Frank, but having that consistent pillar at the back, he's part of the leadership team as well. He's showing consistent performances now outside of the shot stopping as well. where I think that sets you up. If you can have a truly solid goalkeeper that you can depend on, it makes everything else a lot easier. And I know you still have jitters, but for me, I think there's plenty of teams out there that would take him.
Yeah, and of course, it's got to be better to play behind a defence that is nice and solid and compact. That's got to give you a bit more confidence as a goalkeeper as well. But yes, I think those two games proved that he is probably the best shot stopper in the league. Actually, I can't think as a pure shot stopper. I'm not sure there's too many better.
I would say that at the minute on form, yeah, absolutely. And while we're on that bent and trying to love the defensive elements of Frank's reign, Van de Ven, obviously great game against Everton, 2 goals, really good performance as well. You know, just kept us so defensively solid, brought the ball out well. I'm just so chuffed as well that he's got the armband.
Looks a natural, doesn't he? Looks a natural.
It talks really well after the games. It was critical after the Monaco performance, which was, I want to see more of that from Frank, if I'm honest. I want to see
Yeah.
Frank calling out the quality and the creativity that we're lacking. Obviously he's got to keep his powder dry. Doesn't necessarily want to throw the players under the bus, but Van de Ven was straight away saying we weren't good enough. And against Everton, to score 2 goals, to play the way he did, to lead from the front, he's still a young player. And
No, I mean Van de Ven is my favourite player. He's the player who I've got on the back of my shirt. So has been my favourite player since he joined the club. I think he is fantastic, and he just seems to be growing with every game. And certainly that captaincy, it could have been a bit of a burden in Romero's absence, but he's absolutely taken grasp of that captaincy, and it seems to have made him even better. Just obviously everybody knows about his pace and his powers of recovery, but his organisation and he's so calm with everything. You know, nothing seems to phase him. And what I was saying about Vicario, I get jitters when I see a striker going through and I see Van de Ven anywhere near. I'm calm because I know Van de Ven is going to get it.
yeah, even if he's 2 yards behind him, you're thinking he's probably going to catch up here.
Yeah. And that has to play on the minds of opposition strikers.
Yeah.
It's the same as like Van Dijk, isn't it? You know, and to be honest, not so much these days, but you know, prime Van Dijk.
Yeah.
As a striker, you're almost thinking, what's the point of me even trying to get past this guy because I'm not going to. And Van de Ven is certainly getting towards that sort of stature, I think, because sometimes he just looks imperious. There's nothing gets past him.
So we're trying to focus on the positives and not get too down, but we can't just go through life without venting when we need to. And that's why we have the cockle-doodle diss.
His hair's too long. He just honestly the ball in like a sponge pudding. Cock-a-doodle diss.
So I feel like I'm on a bit of a roll because I had the cockle-doodle diss last week, but I've got another one today, and it's something that has been burning away at me probably for the last couple of seasons, to be honest, and it's come off the back of a particular rule change. It revolves around where you can place the ball on the line, and it used to be that you had to have, I think it was the whole ball had to be on the line or something like that. And anyway, they've changed the rules so that now only a bit of the ball, any part of the ball, can be over any bit of the line. And so my cockle-doodle diss is, why is it that every single professional footballer has taken that rule and now has to place that to the absolute extremes? So they'll take a corner and they'll place that ball right so that the furthest bit of the ball is on the furthest bit of the line, so that to all intents and purposes, it looks like it's not even anywhere near the line. And you always then have to get the linesman peering over to make sure that they've got that millimetre overlap that's required by law. I'm sorry, I know it's a game of fine margins, but you cannot tell me that makes the slightest bit of difference compared to putting the ball on the line just like they used to in the good old days. It really infuriates me how, because that's the rule, the professionals are there going, right, yeah, no, we need to take advantage of that. So we're now going to move it 3 inches further forward because we're allowed to.
Come on. No, you couldn't be more right. It is
Oh,
so annoying. And the thing is, especially when you're watching at home on the telly, you're going, okay, well, that ball is 5 meters away from the corner flag now. Just stick it on the line. Like you say, what advantage are you getting? The only thing I can think of is you do have some of those weird pitches which slope away at the edges. So it may give them like half an instep to
but
do their
it's
run
not
up.
even
But
half an instep though.
it's not.
It's literally 2 inches. No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
just
It is. It's not even the width of a well-filled panini. It's just I'm 100% behind this. It should just be ball on the line.
yeah.
The ball needs to be on the line. Place the ball on the line of that semicircle for the corner, and then there's no question.
I think the thing that infuriates me most is that you just know that rule came out, and then at some club somewhere, and I'm going to stick my neck out here, it was probably Arsenal. You've got a coach going, Gaffer, you seen they've changed that rule? Right, we're going to take full advantage of that. We're going to move that ball right over to its furthest edge. And then, of course, everyone else sees them doing that, and everyone follows like the herd of sheep that the Premier League are. But it's just this, I don't know, it's just this concept of if the law allows you to do something, then they have to take full advantage of it, whether that be making any difference whatsoever. It's just because, well, we're allowed to. So we're going to do that. We're going to try and take full advantage. And then maybe we're just going to push it an extra inch. So now it's not over the line and hope that we can get away with it.
It's an absolutely spot on diss.
Yeah, absolutely. Just put it in the quadrant and kick it in. All right. Well, I'm glad we have sorted that all out. Let's move on to the good old predictions. And of course, we've got to catch up with last week's predictions. Monaco and Everton. Monaco, of course, a 0-0 draw. The first 0-0 draw we've had in something ridiculous like 120 games.
That's mad.
It is absolutely mad. Only 1 point between all 3 of us gained with that. Tom said it was going to be a 2-2 draw, so he gets 1 point for getting the result correct.
There
And
you
then
go.
Everton, again, a low scoring affair. Points for Graham and Tom for correctly predicting that we would win, but I'm afraid nobody getting any points for the goal scorer. So pretty low scoring this week, but what that means for the league table is that Graham has 8, I have 9, and still a commanding lead for Tom, who is on 13 points.
I'll take that.
Very nice, very nice. So moving on to this week, and we really do start the difficult run-in that is going to move us all the way through November, starting with the Carabao Cup. And we face the holders away, Newcastle United. Really tricky game. But Graham has sent his predictions in already. He believes we are going to get a 1-1 draw, sneak it on pens, and he reckons Bergvall is going to get our goal. I fancy us to win. I think it will, again, be very much in the style that we've become accustomed to. It will be nice and tight at the back. I think that we will keep another clean sheet. We'll keep them out. So I'm going to go, we're going to sneak it by 1-0, and I'm going to go with Brennan Johnson to be that goal scorer.
Well, I don't want to put a dampener on things, especially after we've tried so very hard to stay positive. But I've just got a feeling about this one, and I don't know how close the other players are to coming back. And I also have a sneaky suspicion that if Frank wants to save these players and not bring them back too soon, that he'll be saving them for Chelsea. So I think we might lose this game. I know. I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Newcastle. I'm going to go Pedro Porro as our scorer, but sadly in a 2-1 loss.
Crashing out of the cup. Oh my goodness. Well, so we've got all 3 results covered there. So there's going to be some points somewhere. That's good news. And then we face, for me, what is the worst game of the season. And we've discussed this before with Chelsea. I hate Chelsea. And I know, obviously, I hate Arsenal, but I just feel Chelsea have just done so much damage to us over the years. So I really hate the Chelsea game. But home to Chelsea, can we turn our home form around against the bitter enemies? What do you reckon, Tom?
I'm going to say yes, but I've been quietly and annoyingly impressed with Chelsea over the last few weeks. I think they seem to have started to click a little. I hope that we will have maybe a few of those players that we have had out back. We'll have more options, and I'm going to be positive and say I'm going to go for a 2-0 win.
Wow.
I'm going to go for a 2-0 win, and I want us to be the result that turns our home form, and it has to be time for Kolo Muani to bang one in the back of the net.
Nice. Okay, well, Graham has said 1-1, and he's going with Danso getting his first goal for us in another set piece, I assume, rather than storming up from 30 yards away.
Is he assuming that Danso's assisting that from his own throw-in?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Chelsea at home, it's a strange one. Like I say, Chelsea seem to be our bogey team. I mean, we never beat Chelsea, and they always seem to inflict damage on us at the worst time. And of course, being at home, we have not performed well at all at home. I'm going to let my head rule my heart. And I think based on all the evidence I've seen so far this season, I find it hard to think that we're going to get a result against them, I'm afraid. So I am going to say we're going to lose 2-1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I thought maybe dipping out the cup was something I could accept, but if you've done that and you end up getting the points, then my God, you would have earned them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want them. I'm afraid I'm going to say 2-1 defeat, but I do agree. I think Kolo Muani probably will start again in that game, and I'm going to back him to get our consolation goal.
Chelsea seem to have a really sort of up and down start, especially after winning the World Club Cup.
Yeah, they're ninth in the league right now, Chelsea. You know, which is amazing. It is so tight everywhere at the moment in the league.
Part of me hopes that this is how it stays, because it's making it a really interesting watch. You know, that then goes back to when we're thinking about how Spurs deal with this really odd, changeable league. Does that mean we need to accept that, as we've been saying, the more solid we are, the more prepared we are?
It's all about consistency, isn't it? I think, and I think as we've been saying, you know, having that defensive solidity offers us a foundation to be consistent. It gives us a chance to compete against the best, but against the best, you definitely need to see more going on up front. If you want to get a positive result, and that I think is the next stage, the next layer that we need to uncover, so that we can continue to see the progression that we've made so far.
Whatever this lasagna that Thomas Frank is cooking up, it needs a hell of a lot more cheese sauce on top.
Absolutely.
You know, actually, talking about lasagna, I'm actually quite hungry. Can we wrap this up?
Oh, that sounds like a perfect idea. Let's hope that Spurs get the results we want this week, and we'll be back next week. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.